I say that because nobody's watching right now, because nobody knows we're live. No one knows that we're going live because I haven't been live for 2 weeks, and everyone thinks I've died, which is more than adequate. That's the way it is. I am someone to die. I'm sure I'm supposed to press play on something at this point. Ah, there we go. Yes, Patreon supporters. Let's see if we. I mean, I don't know how many people we're going to get at this point. The only people who would really know that we're live are hardcore supporters that are looking forward to another Talkin Con. And listen, can't say further than that. I've got to appreciate your support, and indeed anybody that is a subscriber to the channel will have gotten a notification. And I think we've also showed up on the social medias that we are now live. So if you are somebody who is any of those things, welcome along. Good to have you here. The Patreon supporters are rolling around at the moment. The new list will go up on next week's episode, depending on who has added to the list and who perhaps has removed their support, which is fine. They're more than welcome to do so.
Do you know what, Leonard? What you should do with this list of scrolling Patreon supporters is you should do like at the end of Whose Line Is It Anyway, where you have to do it in some sort of fun style.
Now, you see, not many people will get that reference.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
get
that shows how old we are.
There's a little bit of that, yeah.
Yeah, that's what should happen.
So I should do it in, I don't know. Go on then. I'm not Mr. Improvisational matters. You have to.
Neither am I. Neither am I at all.
You have to do it like I have to do it like a train announcer.
Yes, that would be good. Yes.
Platform 3, Danbury, heading on the Jubilee line. Yeah, you see, our neighbours doesn't get that reference because here in the UK we had Whose Line Is It Anyway, which is infinitely better than the American version of Whose Line Is It Anyway, and because it was done by the Comedy Store Players of London, and at the end, basically, they were told that they had to improvise the end credits in a certain style. There we go. Solicitor Smeg, guess I'm too old too, because I love Whose Line Is It Anyway. I like watching old YouTube clips. I do like watching the old Whose Line Is It Anyway. Isn't the Blue Misters watching? Aloha. Solicitor Smeg is watching. Zup, everyone. Our neighbors. Hola from San Diego. Hola to you. I know that a couple of people are getting themselves prepped, especially those who are members of the San Diego Comic-Con Museum followers, because they're having a special week of events that are taking place. Let me just see if I can find it. Hang on a second. Hang on a second. I think I've just turned everything off. Get that off. There we go. Right. I was sent the details as well by Mr. Dan Berry, who is going. It's a Will Eisner week, which starts. So there you go. How cool is that? Will Eisner week. Hello there, everybody. My name is Leonard Sultana. This is Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. I'm going to start with a few apologies. I haven't been on air for the last couple of weeks because I have had the mother of all chest infections. It absolutely laid me low. I went on with a little bit of a mini thing on a Wednesday 2 weeks ago and said, right, well, don't worry, we are still going to be doing stuff like the Sunday surgery. We've got all sorts of stuff planned, at which point I didn't get out of bed for a week and a half. I've just not felt well at all, to the point where I haven't even been able to prep the background. So a little bit of shabby chic here in my apartment de terre, which is overlooking the dockside here at. No, it's not. It really isn't. No, it wouldn't be a pristine apartment like that. But there we go. But no, I've just not been well at all, and I'd like to apologise for that. So what I'm going to basically be doing is I'm not going to be making any big plans. I'm not going to be making any big announcements or preparations for anything. Let's just take it slow, and let's just kind of ease ourselves into it.
That's
And
what I've said to you from the start with our relationship. Let's
yeah,
not
I'd like to.
do
Yeah,
anything big. Just ease
absolutely.
ourselves into it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Make sure that you don't force things, and don't hammer things home. Yeah, that's what we talked about, and yeah, and we were both very happy for that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah, there we go. Solicitor's Meg, best to put out quality than quantity. Let's ease off on both of those things. Let's just take our baby steps, easing back into it, because, like I say, it's not been great. Let's have a look at this. Other comments. Hello there, Sarita P. Good day, all. Welcome along. Good to have you here. Yeah, if you want to jump in with any comments, of course, I would love to take any of your comments. Like I say, it's not going to be a long show because I'm not feeling still 100%. I was actually feeling okay this morning. I'm on my second course of antibiotics. I'm on a course of steroids as well, just to kind of get things into some kind of momentum and get stop sniffling, stop coughing, stop the wheezing on the chest. It's just it. Look, it's not corona, but it's getting there. All right. I've been tested. It ain't corona. Anyway, I have as well. It's legit. I've been, because the GP just went, this seems a little too hardcore. And they went, they're just going to check. And I went, well, I had a Chinese on Monday. And they said, no, it's not that. So there we go. There we go. Right.
I don't know if that was a joke or not. It wasn't.
You think
very good.
it wasn't a very
Yeah,
good
it was
joke.
awful.
There you
No,
go.
I mean, Paul Solicitor Smeg is saying put out quality than quantity. I mean, that was not good quality.
Fair enough. There you go. That was that's my response to that. That you're not going to get either at this point. So we're going to take it steady. We are going to talk about cons. We're going to talk about bits and pieces very quickly. I do want to refer to as well about the current status of corona. It is a growing concern. It started off something that was a kind of throwaway line, which I made 2 weeks ago. It was something that was a vague shadow on the world stage, and now we're at a state where here in the UK, I believe we're about to get into announcements of we're in a containment status here in the UK. We've had fatalities in pretty much every country corona has landed on. And in terms of how it's affected conventions, not just Comic Cons, but also gaming conventions, mobile tech conventions. We've had I think it was one of the mobile tech conferences later on in a couple of weeks' time. That's been cancelled. The best place that I have seen that has kept an eye on how Corona has affected conventions is the Geekery. They took a bit of a leapfrog for a couple of things that I was posting, including stuff around C2E2 with the likes of, I think it was, I can't remember which publisher it was. I think it was IDW that basically had 3 international guests that were due to sign at C2E2. 2 from that were flying in from the East and 1 from Italy. Both of those were refused, or all 3, sorry, were refused flight status, which meant that their content on their booth was non-existent. So they basically cancelled their appearance at C2E2. There are a number of talents that weren't able to make it into the con. The Geekery is probably the best place to check on how it's affecting various events, and indeed some of the bigger shows are already putting out official statements about how they're going to be handling corona and any major virus outbreaks. The general status and the consensus is handshakes are pretty much knocked on the head, fist bumps at the most, elbow rubs maybe as a kind of compromise, but it is a case of just the levels that we take to keep con crud to a level. Let's ramp that up. Wash your hands, stay safe, and just look after yourself. It's just it's at Midtown Comics. Well, Midtown Comics was where the signings were going to happen outside of C2E2, but it was organized by I believe IDW. So there we go. Right, so it's a bad situation. Do keep an eye on when you are going to a convention. Just look after yourself and be understanding if the talent on the other side of the table are not necessarily wanting to get into hugs and cuddles for pictures, because it's just not that situation at this point. Which kind of leads me on to introducing my guest for the day, and also about what he's talking about. Mark Searby, how are you doing, sir? Are you fighting any colds, or are you fit as a fiddle?
No, I'm all good, thanks, Leonard. It helps that I don't go out. You see, I'm self quarantining myself anyway. I've been doing it for about 7 years, so it's fine. You know, I'm perfectly healthy. I mean, I had to go out yesterday, obviously, but I made sure I was only out the house for about 4 hours. I think that was the most I could handle.
Now, did you go out in your bubble? Because I can imagine on the tube that could have been slightly awkward. And certainly maneuvering around the Olympia, because you do have the stairs to negotiate as well. I mean, I have seen you've seen Woody Allen in Everything I Ever Wanted to Know About Sex, in that big inflatable bubble suit. Is that what you were looking at like yesterday?
I'm going to call it cosplay rather than anything else, but my cosplay was very similar to Leslie Nielsen's sex outfit in Naked Gun, where it is just a giant condom that they both fit inside. So that's what I was looking at. And most would say I'm a dick anyway, so it's fine.
Don't make me laugh. Jesus. Okay, fair enough. Okay. Chuck Cook is, I'll be exchanging squirts of hand sanitizer. That's how he's looking after himself. And Michael P, I expect at the end of the month there will be cancellations. Yeah, I can personally see much of this happening. I mean, when it came to London Film and Comic Con, held at the Olympia over the course of this weekend, you went yesterday. Was there any effect, or was anybody making any efforts to look after themselves at London?
No. I mean, plain and simple, no. And it was kind of weird as well, in that there was no signs up or anything else like that, and the few tables that I managed to walk past that had guests there, they had the standard sanitizers on there, the little bottles, but that was it. There was no great effort to stop people. I mean, I shook hands with a couple of people. It's just some people seem to be a little bit hesitant at first, but I think then they were like, okay, well, other people are doing it, so we'll just go for it as well. But no, it was business as usual, to be honest, at Olympia. No change.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, the reason why I'm always curious about such outbreaks or any kind of concerns at Olympia is because it is a jumped up greenhouse. I've mentioned on this channel before, I am not a fan of that building in any way, shape, or form. I don't like the layout. I don't like the way that just to line up to get in, there's no space to do so. And just the building itself, it's like someone has found a derelict train station and just decided we'll stick, I don't know, we'll put concrete down, and that's it. That's how Olympia is for me. But I have seen video. Certainly of yesterday. Jason Joyner put up a Showmasters post yesterday. Why do people just ask us, why do we put on a show in spring? Why on earth do we even bother doing this? At which point you realize that there is the demand. People are up for it, and it's probably the first major show that we have here in the UK. What were the highlights for yourself for London Film Comic Con this time around?
Do you know what? It's weird saying about highlights, because it is not a huge show, not in the strictest sense. It very much is an ease into the con season, I think. Only half of Olympia was open as well. So they really scaled it back on that. I still think it's maybe a show that's testing the waters as to see if it can be financially viable for a long time. But it seemed to run quite nicely. getting in was a bit of an issue. It was
very,
yeah, exactly. It was very, very wet. I mean, I was fortunately on the tube getting there, but I knew that it was hammering down with rain. Unfortunately, they get everybody to line up outside. So there was a lot of people who were quite wet, I have to say. I turned up just as it stopped raining, but still had to stand there and wait for security to let people in. Also, weirdly, for a convention that has been going for X amount of years as well. I'm not talking about London Spring. I'm talking about Showmasters as a convention collective who know how to run conventions. There was nobody on the outside with megaphones or anything else like that telling you, right, you've got to be in this line, have your tickets ready, get your badges ready or anything. The only people who were doing that were venue security. But even then, it was only when you walked out of the tube station that there was a guy saying, right, general entry to the left, if you've got a gold badge to the right, and that was it. Nobody else knew what was happening. So everybody was getting into these lines. We hadn't word how long we were waiting. So I was slightly concerned and thinking, okay, well, look, this is even before. I mean, this is doors have opened, but we're still here at about 20 to 10. And this is, I'm there early, you know, I'm there just after 9 o'clock. It's relatively busy. I will say that they did
sorry, I mean, I was about to say, this is a Showmasters thing generally. I mean, when I've been to the London Film Comic Cons, which I have been to, the people who attend the Showmasters shows, they almost know their own rules. I have never been there or been to a show where there's been, if not an abundance or any evidence of staff, because it's almost like they police themselves. They organize themselves into their own crowd. The only people I know of any official capacity are those that are shouting out for guests, you know, for people to come forward to either collect their photos or that they are taking guest photo shoots or whatever. And even that is because there's a crowd of people around them, you know, who are shouting back. But as for general maneuvering around a Showmasters event, it's almost like volunteers aren't necessarily required because people kind of police themselves at that particular show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I do agree with you to a certain degree, but when you're talking about the side of Olympia, to put it into context, imagine being at San Diego Comic-Con and being out the back on the lawns in lines, but nobody is there telling you anything. You're just looking and it's all other attendees. It's kind of, you're wondering if there is nothing but you're going around the building constantly. That's the worry. And it, you know, it only takes two people from Showmasters to go outside with a megaphone and start shouting stuff. That's it. By the time I'd left, there was no line at all. You know, so they only have to be out there a couple of hours. But it was strange that there was nobody out there, no instructions at all. It was only when I got to the actual door that people were shouting, and they were the people who were on the door to say, come on over, we're going to scan your tickets and you can go in. So it was kind of strange. It didn't feel like they gave a shit outside. Maybe that's too harsh. Maybe that's too harsh, to be honest. Actually, it just felt like they could have had somebody outside with a bit more information than what we were given. There was a couple of people behind me who were from Spain. They had come over from Spain because they had photo ops with somebody, and they were talking to the security guy and said, listen, we've got photo ops. What do we do? And he said, oh, just go in there. You will get in. Don't worry. I mean, his photo op was 10:30, so it was fine because we got in about 20 to 10, quarter to 10. So it was fine. But nobody was there to help. So if his photo op was, let's say, 9:30 or something, he would not have made it in. Who does he go to? Does he go to the front door? Doesn't know where the front door is. This is the problem because they changed the setup for where you go in as well. It wasn't around the far side. It was on the near side. Yeah. So it was all, it didn't flow very nicely outside. I have to say, once inside, as you said, Leonard, it's just got this standard Showmasters thing about it where you kind of know what you're getting. That's it. Job done. Here's all the vendors. You go upstairs to see all the guests, whether it is, you know, film and TV guests or whether you go and see the people who are doing comics. They're all upstairs. So there's like a natural flow once you're inside. And interestingly, you've been you went last summer, Leonard, and there is a stairway that is sort of in the middle of the balcony bit that takes you up, and everybody goes up this stairway. Well, they've removed it completely. So now you have to go up the side doors, which are not very well signposted, but you go up there and it's all as normal. But I think they've done away with it because everybody was going up these stairs and it was causing a fire hazard, to be honest, which is a better idea because there are 4 stairs, one in each corner of the building, and it's, you know, it restricts the flow from just going up one staircase. So that works better, I have to say. And once I was up there, there was quite a lot of room, actually. Even though they closed off half of Olympia, there was a lot of room. But
I noticed they were pushing hard for the No Time to Die.
Yes. Now, here's an interesting thing. For the first time, they had an activation at a Showmasters event. Now, normally they've never gone in for this at all. So, you know, anybody who's been to New York Comic Con or San Diego or, you know, maybe C2E2 or any of those.
It's not that kind of show, is it?
It's not at all. No. So for them to have an activation, and it was to do with No Time to Die, and basically you went in, you had a photograph taken, you got a little ID badge that had your photo on it, and you know it was kind of nice and whatever else. It was like 10 seconds or something. For that to appear, all of a sudden starts to make me think, hang on, are they opening up to other areas now? Are they slowly following ReedPop in what they do with MCM here in the UK and New York?
Well, it's not even just ReedPop. It's every con under the sun that does something to engage their audience. We talk about the different types of convention. We talk about the kind of convention where it's panels led, where it's about the interaction with or getting news out. We talk about conventions which are autos and signatures and photos, and that's what has been Showmasters' bread and butter. When you have seen panels being hosted by Showmasters, it's almost begrudgingly. The organization hasn't been fantastic. It really is just a couple of seats, bang them up there for 15 minutes or half an hour, whatever. It's almost like, well, it's taking them away from the table where they're earning money. That's where, and that's kind of been the Showmasters model, and it's worked because people go, and you know that. However, it's like you say, this is something slightly new for them. It's like they're relaxing themselves and actually wanting people to, I don't know, enjoy themselves and have fun.
It's funny you mention panels there, because the panels yesterday were not with most of the guests who were there to do sign-ins and photos. They had a Witcher panel. They also had a panel from Sky who had brought some footage from Gangs of London, which, for anybody who doesn't know, this is the new Gareth Evans TV show, the guy who gave us the Raid 1 and 2. So there's a big hype about this, massive hype in the UK, and it's only going to ramp up more. But for them to bring something like that is very interesting. Very interesting indeed.
It's a definite shift.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pleased to see it because it's keeping people around. You know, there's only so many times you can walk up and down vendors' stalls. And don't get me wrong, they've got a lot of stalls there. You know, there is a lot of stuff sold. But to bring these types of panels in is, for me, you know, here's the thing. I wrote something about MCM Comic Con not last year, the year before, and said they're not embracing panels. They have all of this talent, they have all of this clout, you know, through ReedPop to do panels as big as New York Comic Con and as big as San Diego, and you're in London. Why wouldn't you do them? Some of the talent is already here, and then all of a sudden MCM London upped their game, and last year their panels were great. They were really, really good. And now all of a sudden it feels like Showmasters have maybe looked at that and gone, well, why aren't we doing something like that where we get a bit of press? Because, you know, this, as I said, this Gangs of London thing, nobody's seen it. There is no trailers at all or anything else like that. There's nothing. However, there is now. And most of that was debuted at Showmasters London Film and Comic Con Spring. So they're getting press off the back of something like that. Maybe that's what they need to start doing, is opening up a bit more as well.
Yeah. I always find it surprising when a convention doesn't do panels or doesn't do content. because, like you say, it's even if it's just taking a guest away from a table for 45 minutes. You bang that up on YouTube. You film it. You bang it up on YouTube. That's free advertising. That's something that people can return to on a regular basis and go, "Oh, right, this is where we can see those people. This is where we can see those guests." Andrew Dickinson's joined us late to the show. Welcome along. We've also got a couple of comments regarding Corona and how effects could be happening. So we'll come back to those in a bit. But certainly when it comes to the guests list for this particular show, okay, a little bit bloke heavy, fine, but it's still a very strong lineup. I mean, Robert Englund from Nightmare on Elm Street, Ian McDiarmid from Star Wars, Charles Dance, Game of Thrones, good to have him. Christopher Lambert doesn't do that many shows, so good to have him representing. So that's from Highlander, of course. A couple of Umbrella Academies. You've got your usual Doctor Who contingent, so it's good to see Sylvester McCoy and Colin Baker getting stretching their legs as per usual. Who else have we got? I thought Bernard Cribbins had cancelled because I thought he was ill, but okay, he's still listed. And you do have a number of Game of Thrones people as well. I mean, who did you kind of get the chance to see out of the corner of your eye?
It was funny because they sort of put all the big guests on one big back wall, and it was just a sea of people, so you couldn't really see Robert Englund or Charles Dance or some of the Game of Thrones people. And then they shifted some of the other smaller cult guests, shall we say, over into another section, so there was loads of room to walk around. So I saw quite a few people. I actually only went to have a chat with Ivana Baquero, who most might know as Ophelia from Pan's Labyrinth, the masterpiece that is Pan's Labyrinth. And I have to say, she was absolutely brilliant. I don't think she does that many conventions, I have to say, but she was brilliant. I stood talking to her for about 15 minutes, and there was a big queue of people as well, but she was happy to talk with everybody. She was happy to sign whatever. Most of it was Pan's Labyrinth, not Shannara Chronicles or whatever that thing is. And she was happy to have photos. She was happy to shake hands as well. She just seemed to be really enjoying herself. I think she was surprised about the amount of people who wanted to come over and say hello. And it was like, you're in Pan's Labyrinth. You're the female lead in Pan's Labyrinth. This incredible film that everybody's ripping off. So it was nice to see that. And that leads me into something else I want to say about Showmasters, which is I've noticed over the past year, certainly with London from summer and then this one, they're now sort of embracing these cult guests, which maybe some of us grew up with from like the 70s or something like that. Or, as I said, with Ivana, a cult guest, really. When you had at the summer, they had Franco Nero there, somebody like that. And you're like, these people I know of, I grew up with Django. But at the same time, I didn't think they ever did conventions. It was like yesterday, they had two people from Friday the 13th, the original Friday the 13th. They had never been to a convention before in their lives. And yet all of a sudden they're at this one. Now, granted, they both die in the film. I mean, who doesn't die in that film, really? But I now wonder if part of Showmaster's film and TV guest section is finding these little nuggets of people who have never done conventions before, or just one or two conventions way back in the past, and all of a sudden bringing them back, which is great because that's fantastic. For me, that's a real winning hand for them, to be honest, to have somebody like that and turn around and go, they've never done a convention before. We're going to be their first one, and you can come and meet them and talk to them and, whatever else. So to bring these people not out of retirement, but to the forefront and receive fan worship, which they probably don't know goes on. This is the thing. They have no idea that this amount of fandom loves these people. So when they turn up and they go, oh, I thought 3 people would turn up, and yet they're busy all day. And this leads me back to, Ivana Baquero, who was so happy to meet everybody. And I think she genuinely was surprised as to how many people were there.
Now, which leads me on to then, is that something that they are planning ahead in regards to this summer? Because you do have London Film and Comic Con that's taking place in July on the same week as San Diego Comic Con, and there's another convention that's taking place that weekend as well, which is going to be taking away the people du jour. You know, the ones that are promoting stuff that is on the way or it's just about to come out, which means that talent is going to be slightly tied up because the studios are going to want them on the biggest platform, which is San Diego. Could this be a case of Showmasters seeing that that's what's coming down the pipe, and let's just shift our focus on the guests that we can have available, but will still attract attention because they are people with established fan bases, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm still going to say no. Not everybody goes to San Diego. You know, there's still talent out there that does not go.
But you're not going. You're not going, and therefore, what's the point?
Yeah. But there's still going to be people available, and they do have a respectable guest list already this year for summer. I wonder how it will impact it, I have to say. But as we know, and as we always talk about on this show, the film and TV landscape has now changed. People don't need to go to San Diego to launch a TV show or a film. It does not happen that much. It feels like they do go there because they appreciate the fandom and they want to show these people who have turned up to do it, but not so much anymore. So, you know, somebody like Zachary Levi, who last year was at San Diego the first weekend, then the second weekend he was in London doing Showmasters. That's not going to happen this year. So it's going to be interesting to see who they can get. I still think they will get some big names because those big names probably don't have a show to promote at the moment. And also, just going a little off topic, I have no idea who the Mr. of Smeg.
He's a stand-up comic. He's done. If you Google him, I get it. I get the reference. I understand what you're saying. But there we go. Andrew Dickinson is saying, has anyone noticed that Sci-Fi Wire hasn't streamed C2E2 this year like a few years, which kind of ties into what I was saying about recording panels and getting content from the shows that you're running. Because I can understand Showmasters not necessarily streaming stuff because they have been predominantly a photos and SIGs show. So it's not something that it generates content. When you have a show like C2E2, which is more geared towards panels and content which can go a little bit further afield, then yes, it does seem a little bit interesting that that Sci-Fi Wire aren't going all in on that this time around. Dan,
I've always found it weird that nobody has ever streamed convention panels live, considering the amount of press that comes out of stuff like San Diego and New York and C2E2, you know, stuff like that.
I mean, C2E2 this time round, I mean, certainly for myself, I mean, I've been glued to content, panel content from C2E2 this weekend, especially from DC Comics, especially off the news about Dan DiDio being let go from the company from Warner Brothers. So when they did their publishers panel, which would have been Jim Lee and Dan DiDio on stage, and it was Jim Lee's panel this time round. It's just him. Coverage of that I'm glued to because I want to find out what's going on with that company. I want to know. And a live stream of that panel would have done gangbusters. It would have just blown up. And then you also have the various other panels which C2E2 have hosted this week round. They could have gone out and that would have been just views and just people's attention focused on that show. So very awkward. Andrew Dickinson is reminding us that PAX East is on Twitch, but that's PAX is a gaming show predominantly, and that is the live streaming is part and parcel of that whole lineup.
That's in their nature to stream stuff live, and I feel like, and this is a subject that maybe we should talk about on another hangout, Leonard, but I feel like there is a big trick being missed in the convention landscape by people not by conventions not streaming certain panels. Not only does it also get eyes onto the live stream through YouTube or whatever it is, they can monetize it, and also it probably gets more people interested in that convention. They may not know about that convention at all yet. On the same time, they go, oh, hang on, there's a panel with so and so who I really like. I'm going to watch that. Do you know what? I wouldn't mind going to this convention.
I guarantee 90% of the people who are watching this stream, who are interested in Comic-Cons, who haven't been to Star Wars Celebration, knows exactly how Star Wars Celebration looks, acts, and feels because they stream everything.
Yep.
I mean, I've been to one Star Wars Celebration, and what you see on the stream is what you get. It's very much a case of, yeah, that content availability is very strange. So let's just make it, maybe internet limitations, live streaming with a lot of people clogging the bandwidth might make it hard. I mean, I could totally understand that, say, with San Diego Comic-Con, because the internet infrastructure is actually organized by a third party, and I have seen their shopping list. I've seen their price list. They're in, because you can request hard lines. Say, for example, if you want to do a stream, a video stream into a panel upstairs, for example, the numbers would stop a bison. I swear to Christ, they are. It's just absolutely insane. Right. I mean, the guest that you saw. I mean, we still haven't mentioned that really. I mean, anyone that jumped out at you in the guest list that kind of jumped out? Who did you go and see?
Ivana Bakaru.
Right. Okay. It was.
Yeah.
You were. That's what I do like about you when it comes to your cons. You're very focused. It's very. There you go. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. I know where I'm going.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the thing. This is what I'm saying, is that she was the lead in Pan's Labyrinth. How can you not go and talk to her about the genius that is Guillermo del Toro? I mean, it's crazy. You know, it's got to be done. But yeah, I mean, it's a soft entry into convention season with this one. It's not a huge list. There's enough people there. You know, Robert Englund was there, Charles Dance, as we said, Game of Thrones people. It seemed busy. It seemed really busy. They'd sold out of Saturday tickets. So clearly Saturday was a busy day. And I have to say, as I was leaving, there were still people piling in. But then when I walked around the corner, the end of the line was just there. But it was busy. I'll tell you one thing about Olympia, and you'll like this, Leonard. There's no exit signs. You don't know how to get out. There is no exit signs. There's like the fire exits. So I went over to one, went to open the door, and the security guy goes, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm going out." He went, "You can't go out here. This is a fire exit." I'm like, "How do I get out?" He said, "Oh, you have to go back to the main entrance, and there's a little walkway that you walk, and you go out the side door." I said, "There's no signs in the building that says exit."
Oh, geez. Yeah, no, I don't doubt it. They quite like a captive audience.
Yes,
that's fair enough. It's an odd building. It just, and not only that, but when you say that how people it would be to get them in through the front door, or that they've switched it from that side door. I mean, that would just absolutely kerfuffle me. It's such a strange building, and I'm not a fan, and we'll have to leave it at that on that one, because it's just horrible building. Okay, yeah. But like you say, it's a soft entry into the convention circuit here in the UK. We do have MCM Birmingham in about 3 weeks' time, which I'll talk about very shortly indeed. But that's another soft entry into the MCM calendar as well. How do you feel this show went in terms of that soft entrance, how getting people back into the spirit? Is it a case of just shaking off the cobwebs at this point?
I think so. I think ultimately it's job done. Easy, simple, nothing too huge. You know, it's March in London. It's raining. Of course it is. It's a bit miserable. Only some tubes are working, so it's a bit difficult to get there as well. But ultimately, you know, for showmasters internally, I'll imagine they'll turn around and go, "Well, that's job done for us. That's a good start for us." And to be fair, yeah, it's deserved. You know, they do what they always do. This one, as I said, scaled down, but it did it.
Fair enough. I mean, like I say, the guest list was impressive enough to attract my attention. It wasn't fireworks impressive, but I mean, there are a couple of names there which kind of got your attention. Like I say, Robert Englund. It's always great to have that guy showing his face, because he is just a mainstay of fandom. Christopher Lambert is just someone you can see me just shaking my head at this point. I'm just going, wow, Christopher Lambert. Okay, there can be only one Christopher Lambert, so that's pretty cool. So there we go. Excellent. All in all, though, a good hit. I'd like to find out more about the Comic Village area, and I'm going to find out more about that from Joel Meadows, and hopefully post something up, or he's going to post something up in the next couple of days, because that's something which Tony Lee is doing his best to improve and engage more of the comics talent at London Film and Comic Con. Definitely wanting to do so the summer one. So I'm going to be keeping my eyes open for that. Okay, let's have a look at this. Chuck Cook is talking about internet connectivity, certainly about San Diego Comic Con. I've had some interesting conversations with Mark Uralt about what the convention center wants to charge for various levels of internet connectivity. It's absurd. Yeah, Mark, by the way, is the person who looks after the accounts, basically, for San Diego Comic Con. The chairman, one of the chairmen, he's one of the long-standing guys with the company, with the organization. Sorry, very, very good bloke. And yeah, I can imagine some of the numbers that floats across his desk are quite insane. But there we go. Toby Tonolino, no exit size. Interesting. Sounds like the person who designed that con designs casinos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something. If it as a casino is a money extraction exercise, that direct correlation really applies to to Showmasters. Yeah, myself and Mark are laughing because yeah, we get it. We get it. Solicitor Smeg, I've been at a few cons where I've been told I have to go far out of my way just to leave, and after a long day walking, I'm just like, I guess I live here now.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah, I totally see that one as well. So there we go. Okay. Speaking of MCM, because we did mention that, I might as well just get a couple of announcements out of the way. However, I feel now I have to get myself into Fine Fettle because I've got myself a couple of panel hosting gigs which are due in the next couple of months, starting with Birmingham in the end of this month, which I can say that now, 1st of March. Excellent stuff. Basically, they are going to be bringing in a number of talents for Comic Village this year, including Kit Buss, who's a UK artist, but is one of the premier artists for Critical Role. Critical Role are representing at MCM this year. I don't think they're representing at the Birmingham show, certainly at London. So this is kind of like continuing the support of Critical Role for MCM. Kit Buss was somebody who was given a table at London the last time I went to an MCM, which was November 2018. 2018. And they had to organize crowd control for people lining up to her table in Comics Village. It absolutely stormed. That was the year that Critical Role took over MCM. It's just ridiculous. Andy Kuhn, Craig Rousseau, Andy McDonald, Tone Rodriguez, J.K. Woodward, who's a bit of a rarity here in the UK, so that's rather cool. And the legend, which is John Wagner, is also going to be there as well. Basically, I've been asked if I can go and host the comics panels. They're going to put 3 on a day, so I'm going to be there for both Saturday and Sunday. And I'm hoping that it'll kick off into other MCMs down the line. So I'm going to be doing my absolute damnedest to make them very entertaining panels in the Comic Village area. But I will be at MCM Birmingham at the end of the month. So looking forward to that. That is Saturday, 21st of March and Sunday, 22nd. And also very quickly as well, I have also announced this week that I'm going to be a panel host for Portsmouth Comic Con, which takes place on Saturday, the 3rd, Saturday, 2nd of May and 3rd of May over the bank holiday weekend. I'm going to be hosting a couple of panels, including Russell Waltz and Troy Alders, working on Star Wars. We're going to be talking to a whole bunch of British comic talents, including Gary Erskine, Martin Simmons, Paul Fry, and Nigel Parkinson, talking about working in UK comics. that I'm very excited about, because the UK comic scene at the moment, while thriving, I just want to see how that is still equating to an international landscape. Martin Simmons is somebody who his work is starting to go further afield, and so it's going to be an interesting conversation about the hot pot of talent that we've got here in the UK. I will also be talking to Alison Sohn and Adam Hughes, who's one of the two big headliners of the show. Adam Hughes, of course, is a phenomenal artist. Been a big fan of his since Justice League, but certainly his artwork on his covers is someone that you know as a comics artist. So it's going to be fun to talk to him. But I think for myself, the highlight is talking to Brian Froud, who is the original concept artist and creator of the world of Labyrinth and also the Dark Crystal. This is a guy who invented a world, and that kind of imagination only comes across once in a lifetime. You come across these people who just generate an ecosystem, generate a language, generate. I mean, this is Tolkien kind of level. This is James Herbert and Dune kind of standard. And I think I've got his name wrong as well. It is Herbert. Anyway, that's I'm ill. Leave me alone. But Brian Froud is somebody who I've been an admirer on for some time, and to get the chance to talk to him is going to be very exciting and thrilling for me. That's going to be taking place on a Saturday. That's the 2nd and 3rd of May. So in a couple of months' time, that's Portsmouth Comic Con. Tickets are available. So there we go. Right. I'm about to die, so I'm going to pretty much wrap things up. The only other thing I did want to talk about really quickly is something that I've been doing while I've been ill and convalescing. I've been buying a lot of weird stuff on eBay, lots of comics and back issues and things that for about £2 or £3. And I've been supporting a couple of Kickstarters as well. There is a Kickstarter that is currently being run by the organizers and publishers of Panel by Panel. They're doing a series of 4 specialist books on some great titles and subjects regarding comics. So you have an X-Men book. You have there's a whole range of them. Do check out Panel by Panel when it comes to not only the regular monthly magazine that they publish online, but also these books that they're doing on Kickstarter. And the other one, this Kickstarter is finished, and I'm not entirely sure how you can get hold of a copy, but I'm going to put this up because this is well worth checking out. This is Elsa Chatiria's art book. Now, she's a French artist that co-created her own original book, award-winning book called The Infinite Loop, but has gone on to do work now for DC, IDW, Marvel, and Disney, including a couple of Star Wars specials, which she did last year, the Princess Leia annual, which is absolutely stunning. I don't know where on earth people could find this, short of ordering it online, but the artwork is absolutely incredible. Oops, there's a drop stuff out of the book, and just the way that she breaks down what she does in terms of her style and how she puts her work together. It is just absolutely stunning, and I would highly recommend checking it out. Like I say, this was actually done as part of a Kickstarter, so I'm not entirely sure if it's actually available as a wide release. I'm hoping it is at some point down the line, because I would like more people to check this out. I'm a big fan of hers. I'm going to push this. Elsa Chatiria, do check out that book, and also follow her on social media as well. She does post a lot of her work in progress stuff. Very much worth checking out. Is there anything that you would like to pimp there, Mark? I mean, obviously there's a book that's kind of like got a poster in your back corner. Is there anything that you want to advertise that you've got happening in the near future?
No, do you know, the only thing I was going to mention was my interview that's on the Convention Collective right now with Michael Matoa, who was one of the co-founders of Sopranos Con that happened last year in New Jersey. The interview is very open. He's very open and honest with numbers, which I think is quite surprising. And he's very open and honest about the fact that they got some things wrong on that first one as well. And obviously they got some things right as well. I thought he was a really interesting guy to speak to. So the interview, the full interview, is now on the Convention Collective, and they're not doing a new Sopranos Con this year. Instead, they are doing Mob Movie Con, which is going to be in Atlantic City next month.
Can I just say is this? I enjoyed the interview. I like the sound of the guy. I'd like to talk to him myself. It's great that you got the chance. That's not a great title for a con, but it's not a great name. Mob Movie Con. Okay, but to be fair, it does do what it says on the tin. So you got cast members from The Irishman. You've got Casino. Basically, if they're a good fella, if they're a wise guy, they show up at that. It's very, very impressive.
Do you know yeah, absolutely. The funny thing about that interview was that when I was interviewing him, and it's in there as well, is that Dominic Chianese, who plays Uncle Junior in The Sopranos, now lives in London. He does not live in America anymore. He's now living in London. He's seen out his days doing albums, playing, making music. He's sort of done acting, so they had to fly him back over. And he said that he doesn't travel that much because he's getting on now. He doesn't like to travel, but they've got him back again for Mob Movie Con next month as well. But I'm surprised, you know, Dominic Chianese is in London and no convention in the UK has reached out to him. This is a big, this is a big guy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very cool interview, and you did a grand job on it. Do go to the conventioncollective.com/! which is where you can find it. That's Mark's little corner of the web when it comes to what he does for me on the Convention Collective. But of course, he also has his own website, which I'm certain it's also posted there. Yes?
No.
Okay.
No,
I'm non-exclusive, man. Get your words out.
Here's the thing with my website is that it is a static website. It is only updated about once every 2 years. It has about 4 articles that you can look on it. It's basically like, it's kind of like my LinkedIn. I'm not on LinkedIn. This is my LinkedIn. Just go to my website.
Yeah. I don't have a Facebook. Go to that. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
A couple of last comments on the chat box. Most of them coming from Andrew Dickinson. So let's roll through them because mentioning about Kit Buss, she was also the original artist for Campaign 1. Like I say, this is an artist that has really gotten onto the zeitgeist of some really strong properties. The fact that she's attached herself to Critical Role and has become the premier artist for that particular IP is just impressive. Talking about Bank Holiday as well, the Portsmouth Comic Con would have been held over the Bank Holiday. As it happens, there is no Bank Holiday because it's been put back to the Friday for VE Day. So no Bank Holiday Monday to drive back. So there we go. So Friday the 8th is the Bank Holiday. So there we go. This one I'm not entirely sure about. I'm going to have to research on this one. Into the Blue Mister is saying, anyone else see the recent video from CGC of their guy handling a Superman #1? Oof. That kind of tells me something went horribly wrong. And that's why I'm now going to finish this stream and I'm going to find that piece of video because I'm interested and intrigued. So yeah, okay, I'm up for that. So there we go. Listen, thank you very much indeed. Like I say, this has been a little bit of a soft restart because I have not been well. I'm still not 100%. I have got a couple of guests that people have said that they're interested. It's just kind of lining them up. Fred Van Lente has turned around and said that he would like to come on to talk about his new Kickstarter. And I would also like to talk to him about his convention experience. Also tying that back into The Con Artist, which I heavily pimped 2 years ago. If no one got the chance to read that book, by the way, do track a copy down because it's very good. It's a great fiction murder mystery based around San Diego Comic-Con, and it's a great book. It's well worth checking out. But Fred Van Vlente, we're going to try and organize him on the show at some point. Basically, I'm not going to announce or do anything big and kind of make any flashy proclamations, because as we've proven over the last month, those have been derailed by life. So we can't do a great deal about that. We'll muddle through. We will be here next Sunday. Come and join us. You never know. We may have something interesting that you would like to watch. I think that's as good as it's going to get. So there we go. Mark, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thanks for bringing us that mini report of London Film Comic Con. Where can people find you online, and what are you up to at the moment?
So online, Mark_Searby on Twitter. My website is marksearby.com. And then weekly film reviews on a Friday on Phoenix FM, 1:30 p.m. UK time, and whatever that works out to in the US, sorry. And also around 4:30 on BBC Northampton, and then on a Sunday on BBC Suffolk at 10 a.m. Every Sunday with film reviews as well. What am I working on now? I'm doing something for Film Stories magazine, which is a magazine here in the UK. I've just interviewed the director of London Fields, which, if you don't know the film, please do look it up. It's got Amber Heard, Johnny Depp, Jim Sturgis in it. It's not so much the film, it's how the film was taken away from its director and re-edited for Toronto, and then all manner of lawsuits came about, and it's only just been released, even though it was started to be filmed in 2013.
A film starring Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Okay, that could be interesting, almost as just to observe how a car crash operates. So yeah, that could be interesting. Yeah, excellent stuff. I'll be looking forward to checking that out. Film Stories is a great magazine. It's been put together by a guy who knows and loves his movies, and is very much coming at film fandom from a slightly different angle. He wants people to go and enjoy films. He's a good guy. So there we go. Myself, like I say, I've got the MCM show at the end of the month. I am going to try and get back into the swing of things, but you just have to bear with me. As you can tell by the voice, I'm utterly shot and tired on the regular basis. The antibiotics are reacting with other medication I'm taking, which is really laying me low, but that's the way it works. But bear with us, and I'll do my best to keep bringing some stuff to you, which hopefully is of interest. For myself and for Mark, thank you very much indeed for joining us. From myself to our Patreon supporters as well, thank you very much indeed for your support. It really does help us do what we do, considering that the bill came in this week for the site hosting. That's all paid for by the Patreon, and that support is invaluable. And thank you very much indeed. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. Back next week, and hopefully we'll get another special guest on. But if not, come along and see me talk drivel for 45 minutes. Okay. Take care. We'll see you soon. Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.